My friend, welcome to the world's best kept secret podcast, the podcast that shows spiritual entrepreneurs how to clarify their message and then how to turn that clarity into revenue. I'm your host, Prima Joe, a mentor and message expert since 2020. Whether you seek to simply clarify your message or feel ready to monetize your brilliance, this is your safe space for actionable guidance and practical tools on how to turn your woo into predictable revenue. Let's get started, shall we? When I was new to business, I struggled so much. I recall as a client, I had my first client. When she came to me, I gave her everything I had for strategy. We created her 30 days plan. She went away, we were both excited, and she did nothing. Nothing in week one. I called her back in the Zoom room and talked her into doing something. And then her next call was like week 2. And when I checked, she had done exactly nothing. And then I talked to her again, and I talked her into whatever I wanted her to do. And then I really inspired her, and she was like, I'm going to do it. 1 week passed by. Guess what? It was call number 3. She was in a Zoom room, and do you know what happened? She had done nothing. All I wanted her to do was share her story and begin telling people like her values, her story, her beliefs, how she came to do what she was doing, her experience. Like I just wanted her to start writing some form of content because she had no audience. So we had to start somewhere. I sat with her, helped her create her story. We created her first series of posts, like really just getting people to know who you are and get people in your world. And she had it all, but she never posted it. Week number 4, she came to me and she had not done a thing. I was so frustrated. I wrote the post for her. I sat with her in Zoom and we spent hours knocking out every post. And I said, please, now go and post these things. What do you think happened? She went back. And the next thing I knew, Stripe said someone had canceled. 1 day prior to her, she was on a plan. So 1 day prior to her renewal, she canceled the plan. And I never saw her again. I had no idea what had happened. These things I had used, I had seen 6 figures in business. Not once, not twice. The strategies I knew worked, but they didn't work for her. I kept seeing clients come in and freezing. Somehow, some clients would come in and they would just crash it through the gates. When I first met my husband, he was new to organic marketing and this type of high-ticket stuff. I gave him one strategy. He went and took that and made it 128,000 in 32 days. I already had clients who were well on their way to their first 6-figure mark. I already had clients who had taken the same strategies and made like 80 grand with them, 50 grand, 30. So I knew these things worked. But there's also a group of clients who came in and they just froze on me. And the problem I had, one of my blocks, is that people needed some form of foundation, some form of laying tools and stuff before they start the real thing. And so I created their story and helped them see their value and blah, blah. And I did a lot of things and people just didn't do nothing. I was so disturbed by clients who just couldn't get themselves to do anything, especially when it comes to marketing, especially when it comes to like selling or telling people about their services, especially when it comes to like really rolling a campaign and inviting people into whatever they do. Clients froze on me and I was like, okay, I don't understand this. And that is how I started to really understand, like learn more about this inner game kind of thing. I see business as one simple process that tests you to grow. Business, marriage, and I think parenting can be the same. I don't have kids at this point, so I don't know. But I have seen people with kids, and I think having kids can be as testing as getting married, as testing, as choosing whether to be a business owner or to stay in a job. I think those three things stretch you more than anything. And really, when I was early on in business, I was big on strategy and I was big on go, 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 let's get it done. But no matter how much I wanted people to go, 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 people didn't go. And it was really interesting because I was like, okay, I need a breakthrough with this. I somehow need to understand how to get people to master their inner game without being a psychic or having to do like therapy on them. I believed people had blocks. I believe I had blocks. I believed that I needed to get over those blocks to do the things that I wanted. But I do not necessarily subscribe to go back to that timeline and relive that moment and make it alive and heal from it. Like, I don't believe in people going back and reliving whatever the pain. I don't know that I wouldn't do it. I didn't know that I want to take people through it. And when I was starting out at that point, that's kind of what it looked like. And I was like, I don't want to do this, but I need to help people. And it is interesting that one day I sat in the Zoom room with this guy who had like incredible tools to help people release blocks on the spot. And I recall I'd been praying that for years. I had been praying for some kind of tool to help me release my own blocks and help my clients like release that anxiety. And when I listened to the guy's presentation and he had exactly what I wanted, my response was I was sweating and I had the worst nerve on the planet. Now, you would think that I would be excited. You would think that, oh my God, this is the business shift and I want it and I want to do it. And yes, I wanted it. Yes, I was praying for it. Yes, it was going to be my biggest breakthrough. But when I saw the tools, my reaction was anxiety or had like a big nerve and I was sweating, which means I wanted the breakthrough, but I was very scared at the amount of shift that it would bring for people. Somehow I was just scared. I wanted $1 million, but I was scared to break through the barrier. Does that make sense? Like you want this thing over here, but you're scared to death to get it. Like a part of you is scared of either what it will do or is scared of the process of it, or we're just scared of success. I remember when I met Matt, I've been 5 years single. I had this huge list called the husband shopping list. It had 40 things that I wanted in a guy. And because I had given up the fact that anybody would have those things, I had become those things. Now, when I met Matt, what was very confusing for me is that he had everything on that list. And I avoided Matt for the first 4 days because I had to sit down and tell myself, no, this cannot be true. There is possibly no one who has everything on my list. And it's too soon. And it's too good to be true. No, like this has to be a mistake. Because I had probably turned down 60 plus men. People would come to me and talk to me for 1 second and I'd be like, no. I had those things I used to call non-negotiables. If you didn't have this, you didn't have this, you didn't have this, goodbye. And one of them was like, what's the word? Ambitious. One of them was ambitious, like ambition. You had to be really at least as ambitious as I was. And most men didn't have that level of ambition. Also, I wanted to marry an entrepreneur, not like a business suit type of person. And when I met Matt, it is very interesting what happened to me because I froze and I was like, okay, I'm dreaming, or this is too good to be true, or this guy is a ghost, and for 4 days, I had to go and pray and ask my guides, like, please tell me that I'm dreaming. Tell me that there is something fundamentally wrong with this guy. And for 4 days, I avoided Matt. And when he met me, he was like on this fire to come to Africa. He's like, I want to come to Africa. And I'm like, oh, so soon? And he's like, yeah, I have met you. I am decided you're my wife. I want to come. And I was like, but too soon? And he's like, yeah, too soon. And for 4 days, I just sat there and avoided him. And I was just thinking, and my chest was beating so hard. I was like, okay, one, it is just too soon. Like, I didn't expect him to show up this year. And two, like, how can you meet someone in a Zoom room? And three, like, how can he be perfect? Like, how can he have everything you're looking for and then more things? And then three, how can he be more ambitious than you? You should have seen me beating myself on the head and saying, this is not possibly right. But I had spent 5 years turning guys down and saying, if this guy doesn't show up, I'm not doing it. The guy comes and I'm like freaking out of my mind. I am glad I didn't sabotage that, but I could have sabotaged that. So the reason I'm creating this episode is because really I believe the strategy is only 20%, and the rest of the 80% is the inner game. And so as a coach, whether you're a business coach or another type of coach, the best thing you can do for yourself and for your clients is to really help them win the inner game. Because if they win the inner game, they will win the outer game. Now, when people sign up, my first focus is really helping them eliminate any blocks they have so they can move. And so I'm going to talk to you through the blocks I have seen so far in the marketplace. And hopefully this will help you look at a business differently, because I was big on strategy. Now I'm not so big on strategy. Now I'm really big on like getting the blocks released, because I know that once the blocks are released, the system will work. I also find there's a lot of strategy in the marketplace, but people are still stuck. People are still not getting paid. There's a lot of amazing courses in the universe, but people still don't get results or don't go through them or don't do the work. All that is like resistance. And so I want to give you an illustration. This is healing in a way without going back to the reason why you have that story, why you have that block. And so I like it because one, it's fast. And two, it really doesn't require you to relive your past. And so as I take you through these methods, I want you to think through, have you experienced them? Have you seen a client struggle because of that? Because for me, I have experienced them as a person, and I have seen my clients experience them over and over and over again. And that is why for me, I wanted to find this type of thing, because I believed that this was the missing piece. If I could get people to do the things they need to do without so much resistance, then we would get results. The problem is most people never do the things. Most people do the things scared, and most people never try again, and most people just quit. Let's get into the blocks. The first real block is marketing. A situation where people freeze about talking about themselves. For some reason, most of my people, the spiritual person, think that marketing is like what is the word? Like when you market, you're blowing a trumpet for your own self. Talking about yourself is bad. Is it self? What's the word? Saying you have something to offer, saying you're good, saying your stuff is good is bad. Most people have a belief that talking about your services is not a good thing. And because of that, they resist marketing. And you find that somebody is feeling like, oh, before putting their offer out there, before putting a campaign there, they're like, oh, I want to do this. It feels really, okay, it just feels really bad. I'm not this person. You know, like you probably grew up, you were told that you had to be humble and you didn't have to brag about whatever. You're a healer, and I don't know what the belief is, that you're supposed to lay back, give your services for free, and not talk about it because people are supposed to find you. And sometimes the cure to these blocks is really just reframing them, or really even just getting to know that they exist. That helps in a way. But there's also some other strategies that we use to help you get to peace with this block, so that we can move it from 100 to maybe 20. And so that your resistance to marketing is no longer 100, but maybe it's 20. So now you can market. Maybe you don't absolutely love it, but now you can market yourself. Does that make sense? So we're moving you from to like, all right, I think I can do it. Because if you don't feel as much resistance, chances are you're going to do the things that are needed for your business to grow. So really the goal is not to even take away all the anxiety or all the thing, but if we can get to a zero, cool. If we can't get it to a zero, still moving it from 100 to 20 is better than trying to market when you really feel like you're at 100 of resistance. Like you start writing a post and you delete it. You go live and you delete the video. You get crickets and you just want to kill yourself. This is kind of the stuff. And a lot of my clients had issues around marketing. And what we have learned to do is really reframe marketing, because the way that I look at it, marketing is coaching. It's just marketing allows you to really coach one-to-many. It allows you to coach many people who would never otherwise join your programs. There's a lot of people who are going to watch this video, but I guarantee you not everyone is going to hire me. And the reason I create this video is somebody is going to watch it and go, oh my God, that's my blog. And maybe even just the awareness of it helps them reframe what it means, or helps them experience it and go, okay, so this is why I'm feeling like this. And that alone can even just be enough. If you're watching this and you're wondering, oh my God, I need help with this, I do have a Skool community where every week we sit on Zoom and help people through business strategy, how to monetize their gifts. And this is part of what we do. So if you would like to really get some one-on-one to go work through this stuff, there'll be a link in the comment section, and you're welcome to join us on Skool. Second block is sales. So with marketing, really, if you start to look at marketing as another way to serve, marketing is coaching. Really, it is. It's just that you're probably going to serve 100 more people, 100x more people than you would in your paid programs. So just look at marketing as another way to coach. Because when you coach publicly in the marketing way, you help more people get to know about you. And some people will work with you, some people won't. But the thing is, now your impact is growing. You don't have to get paid to leave an impact. And marketing is one of the ways that you can do that. And so if you can just start looking at marketing as selling, as coaching, I hope that can help you kind of shift that. But if you feel like you have so much resistance, there is a process that you can use, or more processes that you can use, to sit with that feeling and allow it to dissolve. But that's something you can get when you come to the community. The second block is sales. What does sales mean to you? What stories do you have around sales? If you find yourself saying, I feel pushy, I feel awkward, I feel all of these things around sales, ask yourself why. Years ago, I had a client who could not get herself to sell in DMs. Like, she could not get herself to send a message. And I walked her through a process of really discovering how she buys, so that we could reverse engineer that and see how to create her own sales strategy. But then what I realized is that later on, even just answering a message that somebody had sent her was a problem. She had a problem with asking for money, with talking about what she did, with saying, I have something to sell. Part of that can be money blocks, a part of that can be really just what sales mean to you. And it's very interesting because money blocks is another topic altogether. But sometimes you're not able to sell because you have a twisted interpretation of that. Maybe you think sales is taking advantage of people. Maybe you think when people pay you, they stay poor. You think you're taking away from people. Maybe you have a problem with people putting their payment on a credit card. I have paid for programs that I could never afford, and thanks to credit or people who can borrow. I don't even have a credit card, but thanks to the ability to borrow money from somebody else, because otherwise I would never have moved past my blocks in life. Maybe you have a problem with people actually finding money to pay you. Maybe you assume people don't have money. I don't know what the block is for you, but I hope this helps you kind of start to see it. Do you have any blocks around selling? This was my block around selling. I don't like being pushy. I don't like being salesy. So then what happened to me is that I wasn't able to sell because I didn't know how to deal with objections. Most people, I don't know the percentage, but most people will have an objection. I can't afford it. I need to speak to my spouse. I need to speak to my cat. I need to speak to my dog. I need to speak to my neighbor. There will be a reason why people can't do it. And the higher you charge, the more people are going to be uncomfortable making that transaction on the phone. Now, I knew that helping people pay on the call is very important, but I didn't know how to get people to that point without pushing them. I felt like everybody who tried to sell to me on the phone somehow got so pushy and so manipulative, and I didn't want to do that. And so client after client, I would never sell. My husband is a very good salesman. Like, he sells no problem in his sleep. And I would see him closing sales like clockwork, and I wouldn't, for some reason, close anyone. And one day, this lady comes to my Zoom room. She's been in like 4 programs, 5 programs. She's paid 100K for programs. She's paid 80K, 30K, 50K. So she's the kind of person who really pays for things. But for some reason, she was very stuck in her business. I met her in a mastermind, and she said, "You look like you're making things happen. I want to work with you." And I sat with her and I began to tell her how I could help her. Amazing goals, obstacles, amazing plan I created for her. And then she says, "Oh my God, tell me about the offers. I really want to do this." And I started talking about the offers, and my offer at that point for one-on-one was 25 grand. I dropped the price, 25 grand, or she could pay me 3,000 a month for a year. I dropped the price, and what happened for her is somehow she decided she was the problem. She said, "You know what, Prima, I have been to this program and this program and this program, and all these guys are amazing guys. They have 8-figure businesses. I am really coming to a point where I believe I'm the problem. And at this point, I am hesitant because I think even with you, I might not do it. Like, I think I'm the problem at this point. And I didn't know what to do with that. Just like, I need more time to think about this, because at this point, I'm beginning to believe that I'm the problem. I didn't know what to do with that. So I said, sure, no problem. Take all the time you need. I'll be here. If you change up your mind, or if you come up to a conclusion, if you have a question, just ask them. She left. 2 days later, I saw her. She had gone live, and she was talking about her new coach who helped her overcome a block. And now she was ready to launch the retreat that she had always wanted to launch. That is when I discovered or decided that I wanted to understand this blocks thing. The only thing that I needed to do in that call was help her overcome the fear that she had. Get her to a place of peace so she could make the decision. Whether that was to hire me or not is a different chapter. But what I could have done in that moment was to really just help her get to a place of peace so she could make that decision. And so I don't know what your block is around sales. Do you have a problem getting people to decide? Do you talk to people about your offers and then give them weeks to decide? Do you have a problem helping somebody come to a place of peace with a decision? I always thought it was manipulative to try and take the card on the phone. For some reason, I thought it was manipulative. I thought it was pushy. I thought it was salesy, and I didn't do it. Now I do it smiling because I am really just helping the person resolve a fear so they can get to a place of peace, and whether they hire me or not is irrelevant. How powerful could that shift be for you? If you have struggles closing on the phone, I can almost say you probably have the same. So marketing, sales. The third one is like overwhelm. That's another block. Doing all the things at the same time. Most of my people who I work with at this point are solopreneurs. And so they have themselves in the business, sometimes the VA and ChatGPT. I like solopreneurs. The problem with being a solopreneur is you can't do everything at the same time. And one of the blocks is really overwhelmed. I want to create this thing and this thing and this thing, and I want to learn this thing. I want to learn how to do these pages, and then I want to learn this other thing, and then I want to learn how to do a podcast, and I want to learn how to do social media, and I want to learn how to do networking groups, and I want to learn how to do all of the things. And what ends up happening is they freeze and they do nothing because they're trying to do everything. It's a block. You feel overwhelmed and you can't do anything because you can do so many things to grow your business. You know, you can do webinars and you can do a podcast and you can do social media and you can do posts and you can do reels and you can do stories and you can do all of these things. But really, sometimes all it takes to take away overwhelm and not work 48 hours in a day that has 24 is to just decide that every day I am going to do 3 things that move the needle. I'm going to market myself. I'm going to tell people about the services I offer, and I'm going to sit with someone and tell them about my offer, and I'm going to probably find someone who I can network with, JV with, to get in front of more people. What can you do every day that would be the 80-20 rule kind of thing? Because the results you have result from 20% of the things you do. So what could you do every day as the 20%? I don't know if people do the 80% of everything that doesn't matter. Replying that comment and liking that thing and seeing what everyone else is posting. And then in the end, you're overwhelmed and you've done nothing. The way I like to do it is, one, I freeze all my notifications. So I don't know who is doing what because I'm busy creating my own stuff. I don't have any apps on laptop. Even on the phone, I avoid as much as possible having apps. And what I do is every day I find the 1 thing or 3 things minimum that if I did them, I'd move the needle. So the first question I ask myself is marketing. So I need to put a video or a post out in the marketplace. The second thing I do is meet people, like conversations. So I find a way to get in a conversation with somebody I can serve. The third thing is, who can I partner with to get in front of more people? How can I get in front of more people? So the 3 things I do. Depending on the day, depending on what I'm doing, I might have a launch, I might not, I may have a campaign, I might not. But I'm always thinking, how can I market more? How can I get into conversations with people? Because getting clients is easy. You meet people or people meet you. They discover how you can help them. They sit on a conversation with you and they hire you. So am I meeting new people? Am I having conversations? Am I selling the thing that I sell? Sometimes that's all it is. So if it's meet new people, I'm not going to do everything. I'm going to decide, like, how do I want to meet new people? Through podcasts and interviewing people. Okay, cool. And I'm just going to do that. And that's enough. Marketing, how do I want to market? I could market on every platform, but at this point, I prefer to just market on Facebook and YouTube and podcasts and email. So I create 1 video, I put it on YouTube, I put it on Facebook, I email my people. That's it. I am not so obsessed with working 2 hours a week. What I like to do in my business is I like to allow the people that I work with to understand that one day I can take a week or 2 out of business and that is okay. I like to take a break when I need it. So I need to be able to call someone and say, hey, I'm canceling this call. Can I please meet you earlier or next week? Or I need to just not work. Like when I don't feel like working, I can take days off, binge my Netflix or whatever it is, and not feel guilty. But on a normal day, I don't mind working for more hours and more hours as long as I'm in flow. What's the thing that you desire? You desire to work 4 hours a day? Cool. Set that and have 3 things you can do in those 4 hours, and that's it. Don't try to do everything, because not everything needs to be done. The way to reduce overwhelm is to focus on the result and say, what is the one thing I can do that would move a needle for this result? And every day, think about one thing. Sometimes I do one thing, sometimes I do 3 things, and that's the maximum for me. But I get a lot of stuff done. I don't do the 80%. Maybe I lose out, but I do the 20%. I use the 80-20 rule. Everything that I don't need to do doesn't have to be done, or doesn't have to be done by me. And the third thing is like momentum. Feeling like you just don't have the vibe to do the thing. You just don't feel pulled to do the thing. You just can't get yourself to move. You're stuck in your head. I'll tell you, in 2023, I faced this problem. I was in my head for nearly a year, trying to create my perfect brand. What's my one word? Who do I serve? What differentiates me in the marketplace? Why does this problem exist? How big is the market? Is there enough need? Will people need this thing? What I did is I built businesses and then burnt them down. Built businesses and burned them down. I had like a business idea for a week and then I didn't move forward. Sometimes I had the business idea for 48 hours. Sometimes I had the business idea for a weekend. I spent so much time in my head. And one day, I went on a call with this coach of mine who had known me for years and years. And I gave him, I kid you not, like 10 Google Docs. So there was this Google Doc that said, hey, this is my problem. I'm really struggling to pick my market and pick my message and pick my niche. And then inside each like thing, I had another document. So like, these are the problems I'm experiencing. I am failing to narrow down my niche. And then inside the niche is another document that shows about what I'm thinking about. My target audience, and then inside that word is like another Google document. Do you see what I mean? I'm also struggling to pick this and this and this. And so when I gave the guy the thing, he looked at it. Because I pay for consulting, I pay like for 1 hour, and he's non-cheap. And so before that hour, I want to give him everything he needs so he can process it, so we don't spend time trying to understand the problem. So I send him these Google Docs, and he looks at them. He comes to the call, and for the first 15 minutes, he didn't say anything. He said, you have a lot of Google Docs. What's going on? And I talked and talked and talked and talked, and he just sat there. 15 minutes later, he said, forget the Google Docs. This is your problem. You're not the kind of person who builds from your head. You're the kind of person that moves. Clarity finds you in motion. So drop the Google Docs, pick one, whichever one it is, doesn't matter, and start moving. You've lost your ability to create in motion. And this is how you're wired. And the reason you're stuck is you're trying to create a perfect business before you do stuff. The way that your brain works is that you try things, get lessons, and build from there. So forget this Google Doc and just get in motion. And I kid you not, that's what I paid for that call. That was the advice. It made so much sense because I'd worked with this guy and I'd seen like 96,000 in a month doing exactly that. But I needed him to remind me. And when I went back to my human design report, it made a lot of sense that I am the person to go test the market, and kind of show people what's working and what's not. But here I was stuck in my head trying to build a perfect business. The point I'm trying to share here is momentum. Sometimes you're not in momentum because you're trying to do something that is out of alignment. You're trying to do it in a way that is not in your natural abilities. perfect creation, creating this business, knowing all the corners, knowing all the risks and all of that before I launch. That's not Prima. Prima is launch it in launch it in the mix. Launch it before you're ready. Launch it on the fly. Get data and use that data to keep moving. And so the thing that works for me is I get the idea, I launch it, and they keep modifying it till it takes off. And that cost me a year to land. And I think the offer that he had sold me at that point was like $6,000 or something for a few calls. $6,000 for a few calls. But all I needed to hear was, Prima, just move. Whatever you're looking for is going to find you in motion. Whatever doesn't align with you, you're going to leave it eventually, and you're going to just lean into the things that are working, that are feeling good. Momentum is another block, and most times when you have a momentum issue, that's because you're trying to either do something because everyone is doing it, or because somebody has told you the thing and you think it's amazing, or maybe it's a strategy a coach has told you, but really the way it looks for you is different. That is why when I help people, I like to kind of really know who they are using a few tests. So I can know, like, does this strategy work for them or not? And also allow people to feel into the strategy. You know, you want to learn more about this thing, you can search for free on Skool. Just search for Best Kept Secret Community. There'll be a link in the comments. That takes me to the next block, which is block number. We talked about marketing, we talked about sales, we've talked about momentum. We've talked about overwhelm. My next point is being in Jesus mode. And I know this might sound like a joke, but it's a block. Being in Jesus mode is when you're obsessed with serving the customer or serving the world. Let me explain how that shows up. And I have had that block. And the way it showed up for me is I went on a sales call and I spoke for 90% of the time because I was trying to help the customer, think for them, give them ideas and suggest for them and all of these things. And what had ended up happening for me is I was imposing on them my ideas of the world. And one day a client of mine said, what I feel is that something has worked for me and now you want it to work for me, but I don't want it. It was a client who had struggled with healing and she had really struggled hard. And she was at a point in her business where she wanted to make money, but she didn't want to deal with healing stuff. She didn't want to go back and relive her past and go through all of that. And what I was trying to do is show her that the only way through is through. I said, you're going to build a business, but if we don't heal these things, it won't work. But I pushed her so hard that she felt like, no, I don't want to heal. I just want to build a business. And in that moment, I was like, ooh, that's me in Jesus mode right there. Sometimes it was with the customer and sometimes it was with someone on a Zoom room. Like I'm like in Jesus mode. I want to serve you. Please buy because I want to serve you. And sometimes it can come off as pushy, as imposing. Jesus mode. I have had clients, one of my clients, I remember she was struggling to break through to her first 6-figure mark. And I sat with her and I told her, do you know that the kind of expertise you have, that we could just add a zero to what you're doing, create more value in your offer and people would still pay you? And she froze. She was like, what? Add a zero? I'm like, yeah. We could get whatever you're charging, add a zero, build that value in your offer, and you would still sell. In fact, you'd be surprised that you would probably attract better people. And she was like, no, but I want to help more people. I want to help as many people as possible. And I was like, well, take the education and put it in marketing, and then you can help the whole world. But in as far as people paying you, create this offer for the person who wants the level of expansiveness that comes with this offer. We had to go through that block. And finally, she said, okay, I won't put a zero, but I'm going to try and double my price. I said, okay, fair enough. Because that felt like something she could do. Adding a zero was like out of her calibration. And so she just couldn't do it. Like it was just out of her calibration. But doubling the price was like, but yeah, I could do it. She had like some angst, but she could do it. And so we walked through the feeling or the block, and then she's like, I feel good, actually. I do. So she was selling sessions for $150, healing sessions. She moved that to $300. And when she told the first person, she said, what I did is I stuck it on the wall. And when the customer asked how much, I just read it. I said 300. And she paid. I was like, what? So the next person, she didn't tell me. The next person, she said $600. And then she added, like, she packaged it, like, she said, I'll give you 3 sessions and blah, 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 blah. And she said the person paid. And she said, I wanted to call you, but I was so scared. Then she said, the next person, I kept doubling the price. And one day, her price was $1,500, which is what I wanted her to charge. Because I didn't want her to charge for sessions. I wanted her to charge for the result of whatever people wanted. So if somebody wanted to heal through something, I wanted her to create like a package or a bundle of how many calls people needed, and then charge that with Voxa and some, like really create a package that was worth $1,500, which is what I wanted her to charge per customer. And I met her and she's like, you won't believe it. I'm like, what? She's like, I have a 1,500 customer. And I'm like, huh? What happened? And she told me, like, I kept multiplying the price by two, and people kept buying. And now I feel like I can charge anything. And I'm like, okay. Until you're off calibration again. And so really the lesson for me here is, are you in this Jesus syndrome of trying to serve? Are you in the Mother Teresa syndrome? Maybe I should call it the Mother Teresa syndrome. Are you trying to serve everyone and serve everyone by pricing as cheap as you can? That is what I call the Mother Teresa syndrome or the Jesus mode. And then there's a whole lot of blocks around money, around pricing, around how to get it, how to spend it, how to grow it. That's another topic altogether. How to track it. Like, are you good at receiving money? Are you good at spending money? Are you good at tracking money? Are you good at growing money? Do you believe that things equal value? When I first met my husband, we had this joke. But my husband likes a lot of like stuff. So when he buys a program, he's like, how many hours of video are in here? And I used to joke around with him that he thinks things are value. Lately, he's changed this belief and he believes that value equals money. But before, we used to argue because he used to say, you need to give them more stuff. And I'm like, why? Why do they need more stuff? What's your belief around charging? Do you believe the more videos you give people, the more the value? Do you believe the longer your trainings are, the more the value? Do you believe that answering people's messages in 1 second is value? Like, what do you believe around value and what you can charge? There may be a block, there may not be a block. I don't know. Do you believe that effort equals value? 9 to 5 mentality. I work for 9 hours or 10 hours and then I get this much. And so if you're giving me one phone call, you shouldn't charge 1,000 because that's ripping off. Do you believe that you have to hustle and grind to actually get a lot of money? What's your belief around that? Sometimes all you need is seeing the block. Sometimes all you need is reframing the block. And sometimes we need to sit with the block without trying to change it. We need to sit with it. We need to feel its intensity and really allow it to settle. But this is stuff that we do on Skool. So if you want that kind of experience, come on Skool. Let's try it out. If you have issues raising your price because you think other people don't have money, or you think your customers can't afford it, or for some reason you have something twisted around, I can't raise my price because I can't ask for that much because the customer doesn't have it. Really? I remember when I was new to Facebook, like to online organic marketing, a coach, a seven-figure coach, reached out for some reason. Maybe I think I added him. I saw his work. His clients were crushing it. I wanted to make my first 6 figures. And I had saved about $37,000. And then I wanted to hire a coach. And I knew that a good coach came between 10 and 20 grand. So I thought, oh, let me hire this guy. I add him as a friend and I message him and I'm like, I'd like to know what you offer. He comes back to me with a question of, where do you come from? Where do you live? And I'm like, Uganda. And his answer to me was, my services are known for Ugandans. Like, I won't waste your time because you can't afford it. Based on where you come from, my services are not for you. Too bad. I had 37,000 saved to invest. My first investment, in fact, was $20,000. And that is money I didn't have. There's a difference between, can you afford it and are you resourceful? I have always been resourceful. And for someone to think I can't afford their offer, that's wrong. Because if I want it, I'll find the money. Just for context, $20,000 is 95 million back in Uganda. And this was the first product I paid for, first program, and I didn't have that money. But I hustled it, I got it. So this coach had the belief that because I came from Uganda, I wasn't able to pay whatever the fee was that he charged. Without asking me, without knowing who I was, without knowing my history, he made an assumption that, oh, my services are not for Ugandans. Really, you can't afford it, so I won't waste your time. Too bad. Are you assuming that your customers don't have money, that they can't afford it? Why? Why would you assume that? Because there's a difference between having the money and being resourceful. I guarantee you, when people have an expansive vision of what they can achieve with your program, they'll find the money. What is the block around not charging, not receiving money, not talking about your offer, not marketing yourself, not showing up? What's the belief you have? I once had a client whose belief was that every time she launched an offer, she was so scared to get crickets. She didn't mind getting crickets below a post. But when she launched an offer and got crickets once, she was like, it's just too humiliating for me. What if nobody buys it? What if I have to feel like I have to look like a failure? That was her block around sharing her offers. She was so scared to get crickets. I can't start this thing, but I want to start it, but I can't because I think no one will buy it. And because I think no one will buy it, I'm not going to promote it. Because if anyone buys it, then everyone will see how few people there are and I want to be seen as successful. Can you imagine? You have an offer to sell and your block is no one will buy it, so you don't promote it. And even when somebody probably is talking to you, you can't sell it because nobody's in the thing. And if this person buys it and they come in the thing and they're the only ones, oh my God, what the embarrassment. Is that your block? The way to overcome this is first of all, the realization that it's there, sitting with it and saying, oh, this is the block. I see it. I see you. And saying, okay, come. And the way that I want you to think about blocks is I want you to look at it like a woman who is angry and screaming at her husband. And I want you to imagine you're the husband, and usually what husbands do is they want to fix it. And I'm like, don't fix it. I don't want you to fix it. I don't know if you've been here. I have been there, where you walk up to speak and your husband like wanted to fix it. And you're like, I'm going to kill you. Don't fix my stuff. So I want you to imagine that the thing you're feeling, the fear you're feeling is something like I want you to feel like it's your spouse calling for attention and wanting to talk through whatever it is for maybe 30 minutes or 20. And I want you to hold the trash. So I want you to feel in your body where it is. And I want you to put your hand there. Is it in the chest? Is it in the stomach? Is it in the neck? Is it all over? Like, I want you to find the most intense part of that. And I want you to put your hand on it. And I want you to sit with it. Sit with it as long as you can. And check in from time to time and see if it's moved from like 10 to something lower, because it does. This is not the entire process, but this is kind of how you can start. If you're on Skool, or if you join us on Skool, we'll have more time on the weekly calls to play. But what you want to do is you want to sit with it. You want to kind of see where the most intensity is. You want to sit with it. And imagine that your spouse is so angry and you're holding the trash for them to put everything there, and there's no intention to fix it, because most women don't want you to fix their problems. They just want you to listen. And so it will be uncomfortable, but try it. Be like that husband who is holding the trash and has no idea why they need to listen to something they're not trying to solve. That is how hard it can get. Just sit with it and keep playing with this until it goes down. Sometimes it goes down sooner, sometimes it takes a while, and sometimes it takes a minute, 20, sometimes it takes days, sometimes it takes months. But keep doing this process until it is finally resolved enough that you don't feel the inks around it. Thank you for joining this conversation on the world's best kept secret podcast today. If you feel ready to stop keeping your work a secret,